Welcome to the Future of Tourism podcast. I'm David Peacock.
Stop owning your own content.
Young leaders are stepping up.
Bring everyone to the table
and imagine their world anew.
In April, I had the privilege of welcoming senior executives from destination marketing and management organizations from across the country and abroad to the SimpleView Executives Insight Symposium in San Francisco. This carefully curated gathering brought our industry's leadership together with thought partners from business, government, and academia to explore the challenges and opportunities shaping the future of tourism. Over the next 12 weeks, we'll be releasing some of the content from our keynote speakers, as well as interviewing them on the future of tourism. With insights from Janette Roush of Brand USA, we tackled the urgent need for ethical governance and intentional implementation of AI in our daily operations. Janette Roush, a friend and peer, is, in my humble opinion, a force to be reckoned with in the industry. Good morning, Janette. How are you?
I'm great.
What's it like?
I am in New York City. It is gray and rainy and depressing.
Is it really? It's lovely here for a change.
So really?
Yeah, in 10 hours, you should have better weather, I'm guessing.
I look forward to it.
There it is. Hey, that was just an amazing event in San Francisco. I've been to symposiums before that have worked and others that haven't, but it worked. People were super engaged. We had more than 50 leaders from across the industry, and the thought leadership there was amazing. I want to go right to your piece, which is governance and AI. I want to explain how this came on my radar. We were talking just about a year ago, I think it was Tampa, and I was asking what you were doing, and you were actually taking an AI governance course, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. As a chief executive, we have this charge to look after the governance of our organizations, and we do it with all sorts of elements, but I really don't think I know anyone who was tackling AI governance head on. So it really hit me hard. When I told that same story in San Fran, you could see every other CEO in the room kind of going, oh yeah, that's my responsibility, governance. So can you just tell us a little bit about your presentation and how you got there and your journey to get there? Because it was fascinating. So at your own speed.
Thank you so much. It really was all born out of the question that I kept getting, when I was doing any kind of AI training or speaking, which was, what is safe or okay to put in a large language model? And that question kept coming up over and over again. And I heard other people kind of speak on that topic, but I just had no confidence in giving the answer on my own. Like, there's some general advice. We don't want to put PII into a language model. So email addresses and names and addresses, we all hear that's a no-no.
Right.
And then sometimes you would also hear that you shouldn't put anything you don't own into a language model.
Okay. And at that point, everybody's using AI to some extent. You're using it in NYC and Cope. Peers are using it. And so does it hit you the same way that you're kind of like, oh boy, there's a whole step we missed?
Right. Well, I'm like, well, if we're not allowed to put anything into this, it's not going to be very useful. And the way that I use AI and the way that I teach people to use AI wouldn't be very useful, because I'm a big believer in if you want to get the best out of a chat, you need to prime that chat with a source of truth, because otherwise you're just leaving it to the probability of whatever is in the language model to tell you probably only what you want to hear. And that's not the most useful use case. What I want to do is take, horrific research about audiences and then use that research about it to be the source of truth for when you are putting together a campaign to reach those audiences. But I don't want to tell people to do that if it is, unethical or somehow immoral to do so. And so I wanted to get a deeper understanding of what's okay and what's not and why, so I could explain it. And so that led me to the AIGP certification from IAPP, which is the International Association of Privacy Professionals. And they offer many different certifications around GDPR and working with data safely. And so now they have this new certification that is AI, artificial intelligence governance principles. And it is, it's a very legal, lawyerly certification. So somebody that I follow on LinkedIn, Dr. Kyle David, he calls
Okay.
himself the privacy doctor. He launched a new, just like online do-it-yourself training for this exam. And so I have not sat to take the exam. I'm not sure I would pass this exam. It's a very intense 3-hour whole thing. So I haven't done that piece of it, but I have watched this, 15 hours of video more than once.
All right. And so your starting point is you need a governance model inside your organization for AI, and you realize that. You don't need to become a professor of teaching governance in AI. Okay.
No, I just want to answer questions truthfully, which is kind of where I got to, I hope.
You did, but as in the process, you started also really sharing your work on AI. So we've all seen you speak a bunch of times and invited you to speak a bunch of times about your sort of growth and use of AI yourself. And then this piece pops up. In doing that, though, you're exposed to lots of people who talk about AI in their organizations. You make one observation in your presentation, if I may. Mm-hmm. Most organizations are currently taking one of two approaches, either hiding from AI out of fear or diving haphazardly in without guardrails. Neither serves your organization well. Instead, we need a middle path focused on 3 key commitments. Those 3 commitments, do you remember them?
Yes, we need to use AI ethically, strategically, and safely.
Very good, very good. Okay, so, and that sounds really simple, but I think it's probably a discussion that hasn't happened at that level in most of our organizations.
Yeah, and part of the challenge is, like, I've had people come and I'm happy to share the Brand USA, our own AI guidelines. But the trick is probably other organizations couldn't just adopt those guidelines themselves because the guidelines are born out of conversations. And the conversations that we had may not look like the conversations that would happen at your organization. So when we're talking about ethics, we're talking about things like how transparent are you going to be about the use of AI? Will you allow the use of AI in editing photos? If you think back to the advent of Photoshop, 25 years ago, we wrung our hands over, is it okay to make the sky a little bit more blue in this photo on my brochure? And then it became, I would say now, consumers would think it was weird if you didn't make that sky blue and
if the
purple.
sky wasn't perfect. Yeah.
Right. And, so yes, it's easy to say, oh my goodness, I would never, ever use a photo created by or edited with AI. But
we
honestly,
consume them every day. We consume them like candy, like for sure.
Yeah. Like over time, how we think about it will change. And so you have to revisit.
So really, if you sort of map your journey, it's analogous to most organizations. AI use inside tourism destination organizations was sort of an emergent thing. People who were tech savvy started towards it. And it's fair to say that's almost more dangerous because it means it becomes entrenched and used before it has guardrails.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say more dangerous in that it's not addressable.
Right.
Like I would assume if you do not have guidelines today, don't worry, there is still going to be a subset of your staff that is, engaging in shadow AI or BYO AI. Like there's a 0% chance that nobody is using AI if you don't have guidelines.
Yeah. No, they're using it. It's just it's nice to know, again, if your job is to tiller the ship at the C-suite level, that it's all happening within the charted coordinates.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure that the tools aren't, improving themselves using data from your organization.
And perhaps even sharing that out the back end by mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah. So starting the process for this, you have a really nice sort of simple process. It begins with secure data practices, ethical use. Talk a little bit about that.
When we look at a top-down, bottom-up approach, it's the job of that C-suite to provide safe tools for your teams and then to let them know what they can and cannot use the tools for. So really just the simplest entry point. get a paid plan for ChatGPT, for Anthropic's Claude, for Copilot, for Gemini, whatever your flavor is. When you get the paid enterprise or kind of the light enterprise version, you are purchasing the ability to turn off training of future models on your data. And that's really important, because if you were to put some kind of trade secret into ChatGPT, you wouldn't, it's not like it is searchable later. It's your prompt is like dropping a couple of drops of water into the ocean. If the ocean is the underlying algorithm of the language model. But even so, you don't want your company information going in there. If you think about a tool like read.ai, it's a meeting note taker that if you use it, it'll automatically contact everybody who was in the meeting with you and say, oh, would you like to read a transcript of the meeting? And if you say yes, then it connects itself to your Outlook and your email, ostensibly so it can, be a helper for you in future meetings. But it means that it now has content.
So it's mining you for data.
It's mining you for data. And as the head of a company, you want to control for things like that. You don't want to hand out access to email. So you want to have some rules.
All right. So there's these 3 states of being, the things the things you don't know. Often for senior executive in the AI world, just given the technology's evolution, you are talking about things we don't know. And that becomes frustrating, because you say, top-down model, you need guardrails. And then you say, but I don't really necessarily understand this well enough. You mitigate that and you say the most effective AI structures start small, perhaps with just one designated person.
Yes, when you're putting together governance for the company. So this is the person that if somebody wants to use a new AI tool, that they're going to look at the terms and conditions and the privacy policy and make sure that you're not opening up more access to that tool than your organization feels comfortable with. You need somebody, and it can be just one person to start, to say, all right, let's track the kind of data that we are putting into ChatGPT. And if there is, a policy, let's talk about a third party, contract to use research. At a certain point in time, perhaps you're only purchasing a license to use that research for a year. So from a governance perspective, somebody needs to make sure that the chat is deleted a year from now that has that uploaded in it, because that's these policies, the data retention policies at OpenAI, they retain the data as long as you retain the chat.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so in that sense, the organizations we talk to on the show run the gamut from small to very large. Most of them fit in the middle sector of that. They don't have, the C-suite executive doesn't have the idea, it doesn't necessarily have budget to immediately hire an AI person. But what you are saying is find someone who understands this technology in your organization, make them your resource, and give them some authority over some things that are governance related, and start the conversation there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a person who's going to work, and, depending on the size of your organization, they're working hand in hand with your general counsel and your head of IT and your head of human resources, or maybe you're small enough that kind of is all one person.
Sure.
The operations person.
But it's formalizing that. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you too long today. These are short briefs. So I will say this. You said another thing that really encouraged me. Leadership's tone matters tremendously.
Yes. Okay. Because I'm never, as an employee, I'm not going to believe you that you want me to work with AI and explore. If I'm not already, if you think of your staff as there's going to be a few people who are rabidly into this and using shadow AI of all kinds and really, tripling their output. And then you're going to have people who may be on the complete other end of the spectrum. And nobody is going to feel good about telling you what they're doing, no matter which side they're on, if you are not talking about AI use openly. Because the person who's become the super user, think of everything you can learn from that person. You want to get this out of the shadows and shared. And that's creating kind of a sense of wonder
Yeah.
of what these tools are capable of. And that's really what I lean into from an education perspective, because leadership is never going to encourage adoption if it becomes this fear of your job, or AI is going to take everybody's job, so let's hurry up and you teach me how.
Right, right. So, and I do see that evolving in a lot of, again, destination organizations through the marketing department. Quite often, they're the people. The peer you spoke with, Andrew McCauley from Palm Springs, an autodidactic on AI who's really deep into it for that organization. You said it foster a culture of excitement about sharing AI discoveries internally, wonder and delight, and drive more adoption. Okay, so you went to Brand USA. What are you doing there with AI?
I'm going to be doing some pop-up education at IPW and at IMEX Frankfurt in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
So
excellent.
attendees at IPW, they're going to be able to, every single appointment session, I'm going to be leading, like micro trainings in our booth. So like a great opportunity just to increase our capacity to work with AI, whether you're a buyer or, a vendor on the floor. So I'm hoping to be able to work with a lot of folks that way. That's going to be turned into ultimately an on-demand training program for destinations. Just because not every destination can afford to have a chief AI officer. So we want to spread that throughout the industry.
I think that's fabulous work, and I know we all appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to let you go. One question, though, for you. If there's one thing we should read or look at about AI in the next month, what would it be?
I just read a really great, it was a cross post between Charter, which is an AI, I think, training company, and People Magazine.
Okay.
And I don't remember the name of the woman who wrote this article, but it was encouraging women, and it was really focused on women. And I do hear this a lot from women in my training, that some women are afraid to dive into AI because, of sustainability concerns, because it feels like cheating. And it was just an article saying all of those things might feel true, but you have to do it anyway.
Well, you bring up the last point in governance. You said it. I guess it enters your head all the time now about the sustainability of using engines and the amount of energy it takes. You think about that every day?
I think about that all the time. I also think it's something that is overblown is the wrong word, but it's vanishingly small, the energy output on an individual level. So using that as an excuse to not do it, like how much energy are you using in a Chat GPT prompt versus watching Netflix for an hour?
Or having 3 monitors running, reading everything to you, and a second computer upstairs. Yeah, I think I get your point. I think.
Yeah. So, but this is just a stepping stone on our AI journeys, right? Eventually, we're going to be working with much larger AI systems and building out systems. If you don't know how AI works, you won't know how to build systems that use the least amount of computing power possible to do the job you want. So it's education that will help us understand how to be more sustainable with our AI use.
And an open mind and some good guardrails and governance.
That's exactly right.
All right. Listen, you have a great day. It's always wonderful to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. This was really fun.